I'm going to be reading you a book called Amina's World, based on the artist Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson. When she was just 3 years old, Brenda Lynn Robinson knew she wanted to be an artist. Even though her parents didn't call themselves artists, they were. Brenda's father taught her how to make paper pulp from scraps, stomp out the water, dry the sheets in the sun, and sew the pages together to make books. Her mother taught her to do needlework and make colorful tablecloths by sewing hundreds of buttons on pieces of cloth. Here's a photograph of Brenda when she was 3.5 years old. It was taken in 1944. Brenda painted this self-portrait when she was only 10 years old. This is one of the many drawings the young artist made using charcoal and pastel. When you're looking at it, see if you can find her sketchbook and her dog. And here's a drawing of a dog. This dog was her prize for winning a Thanksgiving turkey drawing contest sponsored by a local TV station. And here we can see Brenda with her parents and sisters. She is seated on the step between her mom and her dad. Brenda lived with her family in Columbus, Ohio, in a newly built apartment complex called Poindexter Village. Everyone knew each other there, and the adults helped raise all the children. Everyone was a family. This is a photograph of Poindexter Village in the 1940s. When you unfold the pages, a long painting of Brenda's is on display. It's called Sidewalks of Poindexter Village, Market Street. She painted this in 1999. Notice how different the two images are? The black and white photo of Poindexter Village doesn't show us that it's a bustling community. It's just an empty street with a brick building. But Brenda's painting of Poindexter Village tells a totally different story. Look at this place. There's so much life. There's bright colors and kids playing everywhere. Neighbors are socializing with each other, playing music, dancing, and even including some neighborhood birds in the fun. You can really tell how much fun Brenda had growing up in her community. I bet she loved it there. One of the most important things Brenda learned from her father was how to do penetration drawings. These are drawings that are done with strict concentration. Her father taught her how to penetrate a scene of a person or place by looking at it carefully to notice every detail. You can play this game with a family member or friend to test your skills of observations. Just follow steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. Brenda saw this girl with an umbrella on the street one day and carefully observed every detail about her using the penetration method. When she returned home, she drew this portrait. The artist used fine lines to create shading and add depth to the drawing. This technique is called cross-hatching. You can see why Brenda's father thought this was such an important skill to have. By totally immersing herself into her subject, Brenda was able to draw something amazing. The details she included really proved that she paid close attention to her subject. She must have been deep in concentration. Every 6 months or so, Brenda's family made their own soap from bacon grease. They bought lilac or rose oil at the drugstore to make it smell sweet. They poured the mixture into a big tin pan, let it harden, and then cut it into pieces. This painting here shows Amina and her family doing just that. Amina titled this painting, "Makin' Sweet Soap in the Backyard." She made it in 1995. See that little girl in the red dress sitting on the stoop? That's Amina. After Brenda graduated from high school, she went to the Columbus Art School, now the Columbus College of Art and Design. She also worked at the Columbus Public Library, which was located nearby. Brenda used city directories and maps she found at the library to gather information about old neighborhoods she had heard stories about from her elders. She combined this research with her own memories to create memory maps like the one inside these pages. These pages open up to another one of Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson's pieces. This painting is called a memory map because, like the other one, it shows us what her memory is of the lively street life and her memories of each shop, church, and business establishment on the street. This painting Amina made truly captures the essence of her community. Even though paintings can't talk, I feel like I can hear this one. When I look at it, I can hear all of the people talking. I can hear the chickens squawking, the random people calling out for your attention. I can even hear the wheels of the carriages on the cobblestone streets. With all these small but important details, Amina is able to portray a spirit in her memory maps that document the lively street life of Poindexter Village. In 1974, Brenda and her son Sydney moved into the house that would become the artist's beloved home and studio for the rest of her life. Brenda built some of her own furniture for the house, including this chair, which she entitled Gift of Love. She assembled this chair with wood and letter scraps she carved. She added hogmog figures of her family. Hogmog is a clay-like material Brenda made from mud, sticks, leaves, and glue. Brenda carved crosses into the legs of the chair because the Christian religion was important to her. She also embedded music boxes to provide the comforting sound of gospel music. As a young woman, Brenda went to study in Africa. She took lots of art materials with her, and when these ran out, she used the thin paper that lined the drawers in her hotel room for drawing paper. She sketched the people who worked and shopped in the busy marketplaces of the cities and villages she visited. When Brenda came home from Africa, she used the sketches to help her paint scenes like this one on cloth. This one documents the streets of Senegal. It was done in 1980. When Amina was in Africa, she took a trip to Egypt. On this trip in Egypt, a holy man gave Brenda the name Amina. The name means trustworthy in both Arabic and Swahili. She added it to the names her parents had given her to become Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson. Here's another piece of Amina's. It's called The Eyes of the People Are the Spirit of Africa. This one was also made in 1980. Amina bought some of her art supplies at the store, but she often made her own paper from discarded scraps and dyes from fruits and vegetables. People she knew, and even strangers, brought her buttons, neckties, and fabrics. She combined all of these natural and machine-made materials in her art. She was a human recycling machine. When Amina's son was a little boy, she made books for him out of paper bags and cardboard scraps. Some of the books folded into tiny squares. Others were folded like accordions. Some even had pop-up animals inside. They all fit in an old shoebox. Here's the shoebox Brenda's son kept all of his handmade books in. She hand-painted this in 1968. Folk artist Elijah Pierce lived near Amina and was a good friend of hers. Mr. Pierce worked as a barber in a shop around the corner from the art school Amina attended and the Columbus Museum of Art, which she often visited. Mr. Pierce carved animals, biblical stories, and folk tales from wood in between cutting his customers' hair. Amina created this raganon about Mr. Pierce's barbershop. Raganon is Amina's word for a work of art that goes on and has layers of meaning, and is made from a variety of materials. Amina believed a raganon is never finished because each person who sees it has something to add to it. This raganon that Amina made for Mr. Pierce took her almost 10 years to make. Like all of Amina's raganons, this one is made with a bunch of different materials, buttons especially. You can see that she used different types of fabric, string, beads, and pins. She even added a picture of Mr. Pierce in it. See if you can find it. Amina's work was inspired by the African concept of Sankofa, the need to remember and honor the past in order to move forward. Amina's ancestors, like those of so many African Americans, were kidnapped in Africa and forced into slavery in the Americas. In this sculpture, Amina honors the brave individuals in Columbus, Ohio, who helped escape slaves on their journey to freedom in Canada in the 1800s. Those who helped escaped slaves seek freedom were known as abolitionists and were part of a system known as the Underground Railroad. This sculpture is made with hogmog and ordinary objects Amina found and collected. Much of Amina's art reflects her strong belief in equal rights for all people, regardless of the color of their skin, nationality, or religion. She participated in the Civil Rights March on Washington in 1963 and later recorded her memory of hearing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. deliver his "I Have a Dream" speech. Amina carefully unfolded an envelope she received in the mail and used it as a surface for illustrating her memory of Dr. King and the march. She called this envelope art form unwritten love letters and used it to memorialize many events and individuals. This unwritten love letter celebrates the life of Sojourner Truth, an abolitionist and women's rights activist. And this unwritten love letter is about one of Amina's favorite writers, Alice Walker. Amina loved to listen to African American gospel music. She associated these songs with the strong women who tried to keep their families together during slavery. She drew portraits like this one to symbolize the songs. In this portrait, you might notice the woman's hands are very large, and buttons are an important part of the picture. Why do you think Amina made the hands so large and included buttons? If you thought she used them as symbols, you were right. This portrait symbolizes spirituals. Spirituals are religious folk songs that are associated with the enslavement of African people in the American South. Amina created this woman to be a symbol for all that the spirituals speak of: survival, freedom, determination, love, faith, justice, and hope. She saw the spirituals as her own dreams, her own chants, and her own stories, and she believed that they reach out and offer hope. Spirituals wove Amina's memories together. The buttons represent those memories and are symbols of the teachings of the past. In 2008, Amina began working on a series about Barack Obama, who had just been elected the 44th President of the United States. This collage is a celebration of the Obama family as they walk in the Rose Garden at the White House. To make this collage, Amina glued fabric and paper to her painting. She titled this piece Presidential Suite. In Presidential Suite, and in much of Amina's work, the past is a part of the present. Amina was very proud of Mr. Obama's accomplishments as the nation's first African American president, but she knew that the Obama story also included the history of African American slavery. This rag painting collage recognizes and honors slaves who helped build the White House and U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. in the late 1700s and early 1800s. Why do you think Amina called this collage a rag painting? Amina called this a rag painting because she attached fabric to it like a collage. Amina found information for much of her work in books and newspapers, but even more important to her were the conversations and art lessons she had with her Uncle Alvin and other elders. This is a painting of Amina taking art lessons with her uncle. She painted this in 1983. Until her death in 2015 at the age of 75, Amina's goal was to remember, document, and honor the past through her art. Her message is for all of us to do the same in whatever creative form we choose and be sure to pass it on.